Welcome to Dream by Design with Melissa Banks. I'm your host, Melissa Banks, and I'm excited that you could be with us today. Today, we have another amazing woman to share her journey with us and how she's been able to keep going despite the circumstances. Our guest today is Dr. Velma Bagby. Dr. Bagby is the best-selling award-winning Christian author. She's a Christian dating relationship coach and speaker. Welcome to the show, Dr. Velma.
Hey, I'm glad to be here, Melissa. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here, Dr. Velma. 2024, I mean, take a look at this amazing year. You have had a wonderful year, and congratulations on everything for 2024.
Yay.
I know, right? For our conversation today, Dr. Velma, I want to begin with something you said that I read in your bio or maybe on your page. I can't remember where I saw that. But you said that you help women become the right mate to attract the right mate. I had to read that over and over and over again so I can get it right. Is you help women become the right mate to attract the right mate. Tell us how you do that.
Well, what I do is basically take them back to scripture in terms of who God says that they are. And you and I have had conversations about self-worth, having the confidence, understanding your value, and really embracing who you are. And so many women that I met over the years don't have that. They don't see their worth. They have poor self-esteem, all of the things that will attract the wrong kind of man. Because your heart and what's inside of you will attract the kind of mate that you're hoping you're going to attract. But if your heart is not right and you're not sure of who you are, you haven't embraced who your worth, you have no confidence, any of that, that can cause you to attract the wrong kind. And that's the reason I created the character, the catfish, who's attracted to that kind of woman. He can smell that kind of heart. It's a smell. It has a really strong odor. They can tell a woman who's not sure of herself. And so he's looking for someone he can control and someone he can manipulate because she's not sure of who she is. And that's why I say that many women complain about the kind of men that they've attracted, and blame them, but it's not them. It's you that need to examine your heart. The first examination that has to take place is you. Examine who you are and where you are, and make sure you're solid in your relationship with God first, and with yourself and who he says that you are. And if you haven't embraced that yet, then that's the kind of heart odor you're going to give off to the man that you're hoping not to attract, but that's exactly what you're going to attract.
Wow. I've never heard that before, that he can smell the confidence or the lack of
The
the
lack
confidence.
thereof.
Oh
Absolutely.
my goodness, I have never heard that before. With being married over 50 years, right? 50
Yes.
years this year. So you're definitely want to tell us about that. That is amazing. I'm going to always remember that.
Yes.
We've heard you. I've heard you talk many times, Dr. Velma, about your corporate career, and when you left corporate, how you had the voice of corporate. You knew
Yep.
to speak the language. You knew what words to say. You knew the voice of corporate.
Yes.
But when you retired and left that part of your journey, you had to find your own voice. How were you
Absolutely.
able to do that?
It was a struggle in the beginning because the literary world wasn't as friendly as I had hoped it would be. Reaching out to people who were already well on their way with their writing career didn't work well. And so I decided, let me just look at the self-help books. Let me start there. And I started reading other blogs. And then I got into a Christian marketing group that also helped me to discover what it is I needed to say. So it took me some time because I was never able to voice my opinion about anything while I was working on the job. It was always the corporation's voice. And so therefore, trying to determine what my voice sounded like, what is it that I needed to say, it came about when my daughters and I were talking about dating and relationships, and they asked me, Mom, why are men so slow? And I said, girl, they're not slow. Their eyes are closed to the wrong one. I said, his eyes were only open to the one that God has for them. And so we had this in-depth conversation. They were both adults now, and they started telling their friends, and their friends started saying, tell me more. I want to know more about what your mom is saying. And so as a result, they encouraged me to write my very first book. And it took me 6 years to do that. So it took me some time to really discover, how do I want to say this? How do I want to present this? And so that was a challenge for me.
Well, you basically answered what my next question was going to be, because the Catch series is based on relationships and how to approach them. So my question was, what was the inspiration for the series? So talk to us a little, go into a little bit more in depth, because you basically answered that right there. But talk to us about the series and the inspiration behind each piece of the series. You said it took 6 years to get the first one out. Now there's 4, I believe, right?
Well, that was my first book. It was a nonfiction Christian book.
Oh, okay.
The answer to their question was the title of the book. Your Adam is asleep until God opens his eyes. That was my conversations with my
Oh,
daughters. But
wow.
it was after that, because that was nonfiction, and I kept saying, God, how do I communicate the message that I'm supposed to give and share with others when everybody may not want to read a nonfiction book? They may want to read something different. And I looked at fiction and did my research, and I found the contemporary Christian fiction to be the perfect place. And it wasn't until I read a blog by another Christian author, and she was addressing the same issues that there are some in the Christian community that do not gravitate towards fiction. And she addressed the fact that Jesus wrote over 50 parables. All were fictional stories. So what are we talking about?
Mhm.
That's in scripture. He basically tried to address the issues in a person, not directly, but told them a story using things that they were familiar with. And then he weaved into the story how to change or the way out. But he never said, you need to do this. You never, you always. He just told a story. And that person was allowed to see themselves in the story, and then with the tools in the story, change what they needed to change. But he never ended the story with, now you need to make a decision. Tell me now. No, he simply gave the story. And so I said, okay, that's what I need to do. And that's how the Catch series was born. And I went to my brother, who's an expert at fishing. I said, okay, let me start with fish. Jesus used fish in one of the parables. Let me see what I can do with fish. And the minute my brother began describing the personality of the fish, where he had to catch it, the type of bait that fish loved, like the catfish loves smelly bait. He eats dead things. A catfish doesn't go after anything. And even though God says a man findeth the wife, he goes after who he's looking for, but not a catfish. Sits at the bottom of the lake and waits for dead things to drop near him, and that's what he eats. So he's attracted to strong smells, things that are dead. And so as he began to tell me that, I said, are you kidding me? He said, yeah, they're lazy. They bury themselves at the bottom and they're difficult to catch. But as soon as he started describing each of the fish that I used, I could tell which man that fish was going to represent. So it was really a thrilling experience for me, because I couldn't believe how much the fish sounded
Fish in the
like
main.
men. Yes.
That is hilarious. But congratulations on all the success on that series, because it went from 1 book to 2 to 3, and then the newest one that was recently released, correct?
Yeah. Uh-huh. That's
That's
correct.
awesome to me. So let's just reset for a moment. If you're just listening, just joining us, this is Dream by Design with Melissa Banks, and our guest today is a best-selling, award-winning Christian author, a Christian dating relationship coach, and speaker, Dr. Velma Bagby. Dr. Velma, you do a lot. I mean, you have podcasts, you have books, you co host on shows, you do a whole lot. You stay so busy, and you've seen so many rewards for all of your hard work. Talk to us about what you do when, as entrepreneurs, we are busy. We have a lot that we want to do. We get an idea, we want to jump on it, and we go from one thing to the next. But what do you do when it's time to breathe? It's time to pour back, because you got to pour back into yourself in order to keep giving like you're giving. So, what do you do in times like that?
I appreciate the fact that I have a supportive husband. And so I make sure that my taping and my recordings and whatever I have to do related to the business of writing books and talking and discussions I schedule 2 days out of the week. I leave the other days open for family time and things that I have to do regarding the house, because I still have a house to operate and run. And we're in the process of still unpacking because we moved in August. And so we're taking our time to kind of organize things. And so I try to make sure I leave that open. Now, occasionally I'll have to interview on a Saturday, because if the interviewer can't do it during the days I have specified, then I leave that open to do that. But otherwise, I try to keep those dates open for other things. I usually pray and ask God to give me his list. I have a list, but he also has a list. And sometimes he surprises me with the book that's coming out soon, the journal. He surprised me with that to complete the journal. And so the Book of Fools that released on April Fool's Day this year, he surprised me with that. Actually, it was 2 weeks before April Fool's Day, 2 or 3 weeks before, release it on April Fool's Day. It wasn't difficult to get the scriptures I needed for that, but it was the idea that, okay, April Fool's Day, 3 weeks. And so I try to do that, but again, I try to show grace to my family, because that's a ministry. That's a gift. I can't rob one gift I've been given just to support another gift. So I try to keep a balance. And so my husband shows grace to me. If I have to um, go past a Tuesday date and enter into some of those other days, he understands it's something quick. I'm not going to be there all day on it, but I try to take some time away, because my favorite time is being creative. And so when I'm in that mode, I'm writing, I'm creating at that moment, and that's my favorite part of the whole assignment.
I think you hit the key on the head, is to have a schedule, have a
Mm-hmm.
commitment to those things that are
Yep.
important to you,
Yep.
and make no exceptions for it. One of the things that I do, Dr. Velma, is I spend time with my mother. So we have a set date
Sweet.
that we do it, and it has to be an emergency or something that I cannot control, because that time is not only for her, it's for
Yes.
me too. And I just make
Yes.
it non-negotiable. And I think that's what we have to learn as
Yes.
entrepreneurs, that it's okay to have some non-negotiable time
Absolutely.
that's for
Mm-hmm.
you. So thank you for that. Talk to
Mm-hmm.
us about something that's coming up in 2025, which is the brand new podcast, Find Your
Yes.
Voice.
Yes.
Oh, congratulations on it. Talk to us about that and what your inspiration was for that and what we can look forward to. Who is it for?
Well, my inspiration was my publicist, and he read the story that I wrote concerning my transition from corporate into my writing world. There, I participated in an anthology, and I wrote this piece called How to Overcome Corporate Laryngitis, because your voice is never heard when you're in the job. It's always the voice of the company.
Mhm.
And so coming away from that, how do I wake up my 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 throat, my laryngitis? How do I get it working just for me? And that was where the title came from. Actually, the lady who facilitated the anthology came up with that name, and I loved it. And so my publisher just read it. He said, I really love that story. He said, but that is something that really needs to get out there. And it reminded me of my own journey, and how unless I paid someone and then they sent me the little app to help me to pick a date to have a conversation with them, and then I paid in advance just to ask a question. I thought, I know what that experience feels like. So why don't I agreed with him that I love the idea, because I love helping others, especially since I know what it feels like when you can't get any support or help or ask a question. And so finding your voice is what that's all about. It's inviting those in business, whether it's writing, whether it's event planning, whatever the area that they're in, they can offer a perspective concerning their journey that will help somebody else. Because some people could be sitting on the sideline. Maybe that person who tried to ask a question just gave up, or the person who gets stuck when difficulties come. They need to hear that we're not always riding on a smooth road. What we do, God has blessed us to do it well, and we've been successful. But there are moments when you're wondering, okay, why am I here? Why am I doing this? And why is this happening? And should I stop or should I quit? Because this particular area I had uh, in place and was doing so well is no longer working for me. So all those questions get to be answered, and the insight and wisdom from these folks that have done so well and pressed forward and made it through some of those difficulties and continue to be successful, they can offer some really great nuggets and help and wisdom to somebody who may be sitting on the sidelines unsure of what to do next. I'm
Absolutely,
excited.
absolutely. I'm excited too, and I absolutely love it because I talk about a time where I did lose my voice, and it's been a process to be able to speak with
Yeah,
confidence and in the areas that I speak in. So I just
yeah,
think it's amazing, and I think it's going to. I know that it's going to encourage so many people who have lost their voice to start to speak up and speak out, and just learning from you
absolutely.
and all of your guests. So I'm super excited to for you, and congratulations again on that. One of the things we like to do on this show, Dr. Velma, is we don't want to just talk about all the great stuff that's happening. We have a lot of success, and congratulations on all that. And each of my guests have been successful in their own way. But what I do know is that the road is not always straight, that you're gonna face some challenges and some bumps along the way. You're gonna get taken off track and have to get yourself back. So talk to us about some challenges that you face on your journey and how you've been able to overcome them and keep going.
How about the fact that God doesn't always give you everything he wants you to accomplish all at once? When you start out, you might start off with one piece. And as you're moving along, then he adds another piece. And you move along some more and he has another piece. Well, I'm in the place now after 6 years of writing. I'm in the place now, okay, I called myself Adonai Publishing. That's my LLC. Because I thought in the beginning that's what God wanted me to do, write books. No, I have evolved, and what he has me doing has evolved. And so therefore that title doesn't work anymore. So I'm in the process of canceling out that LLC and restructuring my business. I may be going to a title that will be my umbrella, and then underneath that umbrella, the doing business as. So I'm looking at that now because I have to encompass everything that I'm doing now. So you may start off with one thing, but if you're really trusting God to guide you along your journey, he will give you other things along the way, and that's what occurred with me. Everything that I'm doing has evolved to more than just writing a book. I'm now talking and speaking. I'm now having opportunities to have host 2 podcasts, and so those are things that I didn't do in the beginning. So I'm excited about it.
I'm excited for you as well. And you hit the nail on the head. I know when I started my business, I thought I was just going to be doing floral design, honestly, and making flower arrangements. And it has been exactly, it has evolved into things that I didn't even think about to believe in.
Yeah,
So I think the key is to be open for where God is leading you, and to keep taking those steps and moving forward. But another thing that you shared, that it's time to let go of one thing that served the purpose
at that
in
time.
order to move to another thing. And I think that happens to us as entrepreneurs. We hold tight to that thing that we started with because we're supposed to have it forever. But it's being willing to let it go so that the new things and the new doors can open up. Thank
That's
you
true.
for that. That was absolutely amazing. What advice, Dr. Velma? I wanted to ask you to give advice. We have different people that listen to our podcast, right? We may have
Mhm.
that woman who's listening who has that dream. She's been there for a while. She's been making lists of what she needs to do, and she's take some steps, but something happens and she don't pull that trigger and say yes. So she hasn't even been able to start. But then
Mhm.
we have that person, that woman
Mhm.
who's listening right now. She started, but boy, was it not easy and straightforward like she thought. And it began to get hard. So now she's thinking of quitting. But then
Mhm.
we also have that group
Mhm.
that has already quit because it got hard. Let's
Yeah.
talk to those people for me right now and give some advice.
Yeah, for the person who's given up already, that's sad, because one of the things that spoke to me in my Christian marketing group in the early stages, remember when I was trying to find someone I can ask some questions of, so I joined a Christian marketing group that would help me to brand myself, all of that. I didn't have anything on social media. I think I had 53 followers on Instagram. That's how important that stuff was to me. I didn't make it a priority. But in the beginning, she said to all of us that if God gave everyone in the world an assignment, there would still be plenty of work left to do. So there's no competition. So someone might be thinking, why, well, what difference does it make? There's plenty of people talking about this already, but not you. Maybe there's an audience, a person waiting for your perspective, waiting for your voice. And that person will not hear anyone else that's out there right now until they hear you. And so you have to understand that what you have been given to do has a purpose. There are lives that you have to touch. There are people that are waiting for you to open up your voice, your whatever that assignment is. so that they can hear what you have to say, and their lives will be changed because of it. So that's one. The person that was about to give up, I used to be that kind of person. I didn't like friction. I really didn't. I'd rather leave all the drama outside, go in my room and lie in the bed and read a book. But I had to learn that sometimes friction is important, because difficulties don't come because you've done anything wrong. Sometimes difficulties come because God is trying to get you to where he needs to take you. And there's something about you that God is trying to eliminate or remove. So we go into the fire not because we've done anything bad. We go into the fire because God burns off what he cannot use. A diamond doesn't become shiny and beautiful all by itself. All the dross and everything around that diamond or that gold has to be removed, and it's burned off. And so you have to understand, it's not anything you've done, and it's not that you've done anything wrong. It's part of the process. We all have to go through a process to get us to where we need to go to that next level of whatever it is God has called you to do. So that's two things. And I think you had a third one. I'm trying to remember what the third one
The
was.
third one was they already quit.
Well, if you've already quit, I'm telling you, you need to go back to where you need to go. And one of the things that helps me, despite the fact that I didn't have people to talk to at the time, I make it a point to surround myself with what I call a wise counsel. People that I can trust and reach out to and vent to and have a conversation with. And I'm grateful that, Melissa, you have become one of those people for me, that it's okay for me to joke with something that I can't joke with somebody else about, or I can share something with you that I can't share with anybody else. So you have to surround yourself with a wise counsel. Someone can help you to get you to that other step. But there's no excuse when you have a million how-to books out there. And I mean, I read a lot of them. I didn't understand the verbiage for nonfiction has to be different for fiction. I didn't understand the rules of a fiction book. All of that I had to learn. And so the how-to books help me. So you can easily be encouraged by following another person in your line of business, looking at their page, looking at their blog, get inspired by something they say or do. Because there are people out there in business and they will blog about some of the difficulties they had so that they can tell their story and someone else can see that and be inspired by it. But I'm saying, if you don't want to pick up a how-to book, then pick up the phone, pick up the messenger, DM somebody and just say, hey, I'm thinking of giving up. What do you think? That's the importance of having a wise counsel. Because if I told Melissa, I'm shutting down my business, I don't want to do it anymore. I told her I wanted to change the name, I need to restructure it. That's different. But what if I said, I'm tired, I don't want to do it anymore? And it's not to say that you don't feel that way sometimes, but I cannot shut down what I didn't put inside of me. What's inside of you was placed inside of you on purpose. It is your God given assignment and you must fulfill it. And that's what's important, because there's an audience waiting just for you. Not my audience, not Melissa's audience, but a group of people who are waiting for you to say what you need to say.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Velma, for that. And just thank you for being here and pouring your heart into us. And I feel like I've just got really poured into. So thank you so much for that. I wanted to ask you before we wrap up, what can we look for next from Dr. Velma?
I have a few projects. It's about four that's coming out before the release of my new podcast in January. I'm excited about my first four guests that will be airing in January. But I got four books that are going to be coming out, and I'm trying to decide how to release. Three are going to be ebooks, and then the fifth book in the Catch series is going to be a journal. And so I'm working on a wow journal, women of worth, going back to where my passion is to make sure a woman is ready. And it begins with who you are and making sure you're embracing who God says you are. And whether you don't believe you're fearfully and wonderfully made or not, but you need to embrace what he says about you. And I love Melissa's statement in The Wild Journey that I'm a masterpiece. And it surprises me how many women out there don't believe any of the things I just said. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping that will inspire and encourage and get them to the place where they need to be.
Wow, we look forward to that. We look forward to more from you, Dr. Velma. Thank you again for being here. Let our audience know how to stay connected with you.
The easiest way, I'm on all social media platforms as Dr. Velma Bagby, but the easiest way is to just go to my website, drvelmabagby.com. Connect, subscribe, and make sure you follow me. I look forward to hearing from you.
Well, absolutely wonderful. This has been amazing. Thank you again. And thank you to our guests for being here today. And thank you to our audience for joining us for another edition of Dream by Design with Melissa Banks. I'm your host, Melissa Banks, saying all your dreams are possible. Believe in yourself, work hard, and don't quit. Until next time, thank you for choosing Dream by Design with Melissa Banks. You go have an amazing day.